Good afternoon. We'd like to start the press conference by Minister IWAYA. Minister, the floor is yours, please. Thank you. I have no specific comments to make at the outset, but today, at the session of House of Representatives and House of Councilors, at the joint session, Prime Minister made a policy speech. The contents of this speech was substantially in relation to the diplomacy. Based on the outcome of Japanese diplomacy up until now, he wants to expand the outcome of such efforts going forward. He also talked about how he will be further strengthening our relations with our allies and with like-minded countries. Also, he mentioned that he wants to build constructive and stable relationship with China. He also talked about the robust relationship and partnership with the Global South as well. So that was the policy, that's the message behind his policy speech. So I think we were able to once again reaffirm, based on the instructions of the Prime Minister, we need to carry out our diplomatic efforts. So I was able to reaffirm those thoughts once again. So I just want to share that with you at the outset. So I would now like to take your questions. Thank you.
If you have a question, please raise your hand. Please be appointed and please come to the microphone and ask your question after stating name and affiliation. Baba-san of Nikkei Shimbun newspaper. Baba of Nikkei Shimbun newspaper about strengthening a deterrence. Defense Minister Nakatani, during his inauguration press conference, stated that he was instructed by Prime Minister Ishiba to make considerations to develop deterrence capabilities, including legislative development. Did you receive same instruction? And also, including such legislative development, what sort of a need do you recognize about further strengthening a deterrence capability given the current severe international situation? Well, thank you. From Prime Minister Ishiba, as I stated at the outset, based upon the outcomes of Japan's diplomacy so far, I was instructed to develop and enhance the outcomes even further. In regards to the further strengthening of the deterrence capability, currently, free and open international order based on the rule of law is challenged significantly. That is the current situation I recognize. Especially, Japan faces the most severe and complicated security environment after the war, while vast military power is concentrating around the country, together with the nuclear and missile development by North Korea, and wide-ranging and rapid reinforcement of military capabilities without sufficient transparency by China. So the current security environment is the most severe after the World War II, and against this backdrop, resolutely defending Japan's territorial land, sea, and airspace, and regional peace and stability, as well as people's lives and properties, is the most important responsibility for the government of Japan. MOFA would like to take into consideration the accumulation of measures in terms of security. We would like to strengthen the Japan-US alliance and to realize free and open Indo-Pacific. We'd like to promote further efforts and have collaboration with the ally even more, as well as a strategic approach will be steadily implemented, including diplomacy with neighboring countries and the region. And we'd like to make efforts to improve the security environment surrounding Japan. Thank you.
Next question. We'd like to go to Sankei Shimbun. Harakawa from Sankei Shimbun, thank you for this opportunity. I want to ask about the situation in the Middle East. Now, as of October 7th this year, it will be 1 year since the war broke out between Israel and Hamas. And in the meantime, the Japanese government has tried to contribute to diplomatic efforts to bring about peace to the situation, but still, despite these efforts, we have not yet been able to see the cessation of the fight. And actually, the situation is worsened, and the situation has become much more complicated. So I would like to ask, So despite the double efforts, the situation has worsened. What are your thoughts about this situation? And also going forward, as the Minister IWAYA, how do you intend to work toward peace and stability in the Middle East? In particular, what can Japan do? What are some of the unique efforts that Japan can make? I would appreciate your thoughts, Minister. Thank you. Yes, thank you. As you pointed out, next week, on October 7th, a year would have passed since the launch of terrorist attacks by Hamas and others toward Israel. So a year would have passed. At this time, I would like to once again reiterate our sincere condolences to the people who lost their lives in the fight. In particular, in times like these, women and children are the victims in these cases. So let's offer our sincere condolences to the survivors and the surviving families. Yes, indeed, the war has been very prolonged. And also we see a critical humanitarian situation in the Gaza Strip as well. And even now, citizens of both Israel and Palestine, their safety are being subject to threat. As far as Japan is concerned, we have consistently condemned the terrorist attacks by Hamas and others. We are also seeking immediate release of all hostages immediately as well. Also, as far as Japan is concerned, we're calling upon all parties, inclusive of Israel, to comply with international law, inclusive of international humanitarian law. We'll continue to encourage these efforts going forward, and also at the same time, we will strongly call upon first efforts to be made so that the cessation of fighting could be achieved as soon as possible. Also, we understand that U.S., Egypt, and Qatar are now engaged in negotiations to realize the release of hostages as well as to realize the cessation of fighting. We strongly support the efforts by these countries to intermediate the situation. We'll continue to, based on the relations we have had with countries in this region, and also as the member of the G7, as well as the member of the UN Security Council, we'll continue to maintain close coordination with various countries. And we'll continue to make various diplomatic efforts to stabilize the situation, to realize two-state solution, and also to realize peace and stability over the medium to long term in the region. Thank you.
The next question, please. Asahi Shimbun newspaper, Satomi-san, please. Satomi of Asahi Shimbun newspaper. Thank you very much. I have a question about the Middle East situation you just mentioned. So this is a general question, rather. And over the past 1 year, Japan has been trying to strike a balance between Arab and Israel. But in a way, Japan was following suit the West, so maybe it has been a double standard. So in regards to this point, what is your assessment? And that's my first question. And also in relation to this, in the UNSC resolutions and so on, Japan sometimes took an action that was different from the rest of the G7. So Japan wasn't in a lockstep with the rest of the G7. What was the background? Is there anything you can tell us about it? Well, thank you. In regards to the Gaza situation, as I mentioned earlier, the government of Japan believes that all director parties should comply with international law, including international humanitarian law. This has been a consistent position of Japan, including efforts vis-à-vis Israel. At various levels, we have been making active efforts. So it is not true that Japan has been exercising double standards. Also, you just mentioned discussions at the UN, including the UNSC. We have been supporting a two-state solution through negotiations by director parties. To improve the current situation, what is the realistic approach? From such a viewpoint, we have been making active and persistent diplomatic efforts and we'd like to continue to do so. Based upon such a consistent position, we have been making responses. Going forward, in the Middle East region, we would like to leverage Japan's unique position, which has been established by Japan's unique diplomacy, and make contributions to the progress of the peace process. Thank you.
Next question, please. Nishiyama-san from Kyoto, please. Thank you, Ms. Nishiyama from Kyoto. I would like to ask a little bit of the situation as well. Now, as on the first, Iran launched ballistic missiles to Israel, and I believe this is considered to be in retaliation to the murder of leader Hassan Nasrallah of Hezbollah. Do you believe that there's need for Japanese nationals in Iran to evacuate? Can you talk about your recognition, inclusive of the possibility of asking the Minister of Defense to prepare transport? Right now, for Iran, we have been provided travel advisory at level 3, which is stop all travel, and also we have also issued level 4 warning, which is the recommendation to evacuate for Japanese people who are in Iran. We're calling upon them to exit as soon as possible while the commercial flight is still in service. Also, on 1st of October, as you pointed out, there was massive attack by Iran to Israel. Immediately after that attack, we called upon Japanese nationals in Iran through the embassy as well as through the ministry to take even more caution, and we've carried out issues such travel advisory. At this moment, we have not made any decisions about any need to. We have not made any decisions with regard to issuance of self-defense airplanes. However, we'd like to make sure that we make all-out efforts so that we prepare for any situation, inclusive of the evacuation of Japanese nationals. Thank you.
The next question, please. Because of the next engagement, we'd like to entertain perhaps 2 more questions. Hasegawa-san of AP, please. AFP, Hasegawa, thank you very much. About the whaling incident, Sea Shepherds found Paul Watson, suspect, was detained in July, Greenland, and his detention will continue until the 23rd of October. The government of Japan is requesting extradition in regards to Mr. Watson. In Europe and the US, there are some defending voices for him against this backdrop about making the request for extradition. Do you believe that it will have some negative implications for Japan's diplomacy in terms of reputation? In the first place, why do you request extradition and want to try him in Japan? And what sort of specific communication are you having with the Denmark government today? You just asked a question about suspect Paul Watson. Now, of course, as you all know, he was added to the international wanted list by ICPO after an arrest warrant was issued, as he was accomplice in assault and property damage against the Japanese crew on a research whaling vessel by Sea Shepherd activists, which took place in February 2010. In response to this situation, on the 21st of July, Greenland's police of Denmark, based upon the international arrangement by ICPO, detained the suspect, Paul Watson. As such, as the government of Japan to the Denmark government, we made a request for the extradition of the suspect. For this whaling issue, this is more about a maritime law enforcement rather than this being a whaling issue. This incident happened and arrest warrant has been issued. And on that basis, to the Denmark authority, we are making necessary efforts appropriately. And we'd like to continue to do so. But in regards to diplomatic communication with the government of Denmark, I'd like to refrain from making a response.
Next question, Ono-san from AP, please. Thank you. My name is Ono from AP. I'd like to go back to the situation in Lebanon. It's about the evacuation of Japanese nationals in Lebanon. I understand that this is ongoing at this moment. What will the scale, and what about the timeline for the evacuation? And also, what type of support will it be rendering to Japanese nationals who wish to remain in Lebanon? I would appreciate your response. Thank you. Thank you. Right now, may I? Yes, right now, we've issued level 4 warning, which is recommendation for evacuation to all parts of Lebanon. And so we're repeatedly encouraging Japanese nationals in Lebanon to leave the country as soon as possible. And based on that, or rather on top of that, on 3rd of October, because of the very rapidly deteriorating situation, we actually had Japanese charter vessel be involved. And so one member of the Japanese embassy who were involved in support to the Japanese nationals and also 2 Japanese nationals in Lebanon were actually carried by this charter vessel to Cyprus from Beirut. So as far as the self-defense force plan is concerned, from my predecessor, asked the defense minister to begin preparations for possible transport of Japanese nationals on September 27th. And I had discussions. I talked on the phone with Foreign Minister Safad yesterday, and we asked that we were able to receive support to this plan as soon as possible. And Foreign Minister Safadi promised that they would do all relevant efforts. Now, as far as this outlook for the further evacuation is concerned, this relates to the operation of self-defense force plane, and also this could actually impact securing the safety of the Japanese nationals. So I'm not able to talk about the specifics of the schedule going forward. However, we'll continue to make efforts, all-out efforts, so that we'll be able to respond to any situation pertaining to the safety of the Japanese nationals, inclusive of the possible evacuation of the Japanese nationals. Thank you.
So the next question will be the final one. Satomi-san, please. Once again, Asahi Shimbun newspaper, Satomi, on a completely different topic about the abduction issue by North Korea. This morning, according to some media reports, Prime Minister Ishiba made a phone call to the family members of the abductees, and he communicated the idea of setting up a liaison office in North Korea. Do you have any facts grasped by MOFA, and what is your idea as a Minister for Foreign Affairs? Well, thank you very much. I am not aware of the details of those media reports, but Prime Minister Ishiba made a phone call to the members of the Association of Families of Abductees. And on that occasion, specific remarks and communication is not supposed to be shared with outside stakeholders. In any case, the family members of the abductees are advanced in age, and abduction issue has a time limit, so this is an issue that cannot be neglected even for a moment. As the government of Japan and MOFA, we'd like to continue to make utmost efforts to realize the return of abductees to Japan as soon as possible. Because of the next engagement, this is all for today's press conference. Thank you.